Good morning and welcome to the last in the Sunday sermons for the set gospel reading of the day provided by the Bishop's senior staff. My name's Canon Sophie Jelly and I'm speaking on Matthew chapter 16 verses 21 to 28. Jesus has begun openly preparing his disciples for what's about to happen to them in this most challenging of passages. He's doing one of those very wise things in leadership. He's anticipating the future so that when the time comes, his disciples will have a way of interpreting the events that surround them, harrowing in this case as they are. Peter, the one who always wants to rush in to show his high-level commitment and loyalty to Jesus at every turn, can't bear to even consider this. He jumps right in, batting away the disturbing future that Jesus has mapped out, and refuses to even entertain it. Now, on the face of it, Jesus' reaction is harsh, and I always feel a bit sorry for Peter in this moment. His motive isn't bad, and yet Jesus calls him Satan. Jesus recognises that he must face this future to fulfil his Father's will, but Peter isn't there yet. This private conversation must have been a very tough one for Peter. And then Jesus goes on to explain further. This is what life with me will look like. If anyone is to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. So I want to spend a few moments this morning reflecting on what denying ourselves looks like, taking up our cross and following him here in this Diocese of Sheffield in the unforgettable year of 2020. The Message paraphrase of Jesus' words here goes like this. Then Jesus went to work on his disciples. Anyone who intends to come with me has to let me lead. You're not in the driver's seat, I am. Don't run from suffering, embrace it. Follow me and I'll show you how. Self-help is no help at all. Self-sacrifice is the way, my way to finding yourself, your true self. What kind of deal is it to get everything you want but lose yourself? What could you ever trade your soul for? So first, let him or her deny themselves. The Greek word for deny here leads a little bit of attention. The word arneomai already means deny, so apaneomai suggests strongly reject. The addition of apo intensifies the use of the word. That means it's utterly refusing to recognise the original source. What a challenge. It means total rejection. Now, if we're honest, how many of our daily thoughts are consumed by thoughts about ourselves? What I need, what I want, how I feel. And Jesus here is setting out an utterly opposite approach to life, inside and out. Now, if we've learned anything from this global pandemic, it's that we're not in the driving seat of our lives at all, even when we think we are. Not really. All of us are subject to forces beyond our control. The severe restrictions we've all faced have been a salutary reminder of this. Of course, in usual times, access to wealth and opportunity can provide a mask to this reality. And in some parts of the world, especially the poorest, the reality is never very far from the surface, perhaps just one harvest away. Allowing Jesus to be in the driving seat of our lives is to recognise the truth that we're not in charge and never can be. Rather than seeing this as the preoccupation of the ascetic, it's about rightly orienting our lives. We are people in loving relationship with our Creator God, human beings made in his image. What is man that you are mindful of them? Now, this small shift at the centre will mean everything else can follow from there. Once it's rightly aligned with the one that we worship, we can live for Christ, as Paul declares. Now, second, if denying oneself wasn't challenging enough, let's move on to taking up our cross. I am the proud owner of more crosses than I care to mention, and you may think that's a bit of a strange thing to say, but quite a few of them have been gifts. I got the small silver cross I was given when I was baptised. Then there's a wooden cross that I cherish that was given to me by a little girl in an after-school club I used to run over 20 years ago. It still smelt of creosote when she gave it to me, as she'd just worked out what the cross could mean for her in all of its fullness, and it was a glorious moment as she presented it to me. I have a cross I keep in my cassock pocket, which was given to me by an older priest as a reminder before every act of worship just who I'm worshipping and why. I even have a cross that's been specially made that means quite a lot to me in preparation for my consecration. All these crosses, and yet I still need reminding. I still need reminding that the cross is no ornament, it's no necklace, rather it's a symbol of the one that I worship. It's a symbol of the painful execution for the criminal that he endured. When the cross was carried, it was a way of declaring to all who could see that the sentence was justified punishment for the criminal. Of course, Jesus was no criminal. In his innocence, he took up this instrument of torture willingly. He endured the pain and the shame and the humiliation. And so we too are to be those who endure pain and shame and humiliation for his sake. This is an extremely tough message to receive, and yet it lies right at the heart of our faith. However, it's not complete without the third and final part of what Jesus says here. Jesus says, "And follow me." Now you'll be familiar, no doubt, with the words earlier in this gospel. "Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The picture here is of a larger, older ox bearing most of the weight, with a smaller animal yoked beside it to learn the craft in order to be able to carry the weight, but just a small part of it. There's something about being in step together here. And so it is for us, that we perform our function in step with Christ. We don't deny ourselves for the sake of some kind of weird spiritual austerity. Rather, we choose Christ with all that brings to us. Hardship, suffering, standing out from the crowd, whatever difficulty may come, but we do this with him always. We're never alone as disciples. We keep company in step with Christ. And as Jesus goes on to say here, it's here that we discover our richest life, life in all its fullness, not an easy life, but one in which we discover the joy of following him all our days, a life in which the fruits of the Spirit can grow and blossom, a life in which we can serve him and know the satisfaction of being a light for Christ in the world, even in the darkest situations and places, a life free from the burden of sin and the assurance of forgiveness through his grace, a life we never could have found for ourselves but only received as gift. I've heard it said that the problem with Christians is that we like Jesus in the car with us, but we prefer to keep him in the boot, taking him out when it suits us, rather than handing him the keys, letting him get in the driving seat and walking round to the passenger side. The next season, with all its challenges locally and globally, will require much of us. But the first thing it will require of us is that we take our proper place in the passenger seat. Not as some kind of invitation into passivity, rather as the greatest symbolic act of trust ever known. Trust in the only one who has earned our trust through his death on the cross, that we might truly know life in all its fullness and hold out that life to others wherever he may call us. Amen.